everybody. Some of you may be good early morning. This is Junichi from Kyoto. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are in the second day of the symposium Air on Air. I'm in the Goethe-Institut, Villa Kamogawa. Air on Air Symposium is initiated by 4 cultural institutions in cooperation with 2 artist residence program networks, AirJ and Air Network Japan. Today, I'd like to start to presenting our organizers. So please, Mr. Enzio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishii, and thank you very much worldwide for those who are watching us now. Even if it's quite early here, it's a bit past 12 in midday. I am Enzio Wetzel, the director of the Villa Kamogawa, Goethe-Institut, Villa Kamogawa. And to just start with the subject, I mean, how do we survive? This is really a question. Villa Kamogawa is existing already 10 years, but in the 9th year, there was the shock of Corona, of COVID-19. So this is the subject of our conference. We will have 3 sessions today, and I would like to start with the first session, introduction into the first session. And well, after the shock, we developed some new strategies, some new methods, and we gathered some new ideas and formats. So being online means we are remote, we are far away from each other, and how to reset, how to start new by our organizations. I'm really happy you saw all of us 4 being together here, also in a physical space in the Villa Kamogawa, and now connected with you online. I pass over to my colleague, Charlotte.
Thank you, Enzio. So hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Fushishi. I'm the director of Villa Kujoyama. So Villa Kujoyama is artist research artist residency program run by the French government, Institut Français Japan and Institut Français Paris. So for us, what is important, because we are based in Kyoto for 28 years, we were one of the first residency program in Japan. And this year, it was really big drama for us, because in 28 years, we couldn't have any artists from last March. So for us, it's really important, and I'm very pleased that we can organize this symposium today. Because to think about our future, and also we were exchanging a lot between institutions, and so today on the session 2, it's really important for us also, it's to give the voice to the artists, because they were the first concern also about this situation. And so we will have some 5 different artists from different disciplines and different fields who will talk about their experience, because some were super active online during the pandemic, but also some could get the experience of virtual residencies. Some really rejected everything. And so what we want, it's really a free talk between the artists with the moderator, but also some feedback from the audience. Because what we want to know, it's what we should develop, what we should stop, maybe about all our ideas, or maybe what we should rethink, because we should really work together and to think better about our air program in the future. Thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to Mami Katsuya. Thank you,
こんにちは。京都芸術センターの勝谷真美と申します。
Hello, my name is Mami Katsuya from Kyoto Art Center. The Kyoto Art Center opened in the year 2000. And exhibition, performing arts and traditional art, and artists in residence, we have conducted many programs so far. And this time, together with Villa Kujoyama, Villa Kamogawa, and Dutch Embassy, it is a great pleasure for us to host this symposium. Like other institutions, amid COVID-19, we were forced to close our center and canceled exhibitions. In other words, we are forced to stop temporarily. In particular, artists in residence has been greatly damaged or hit. Having said that, so artists are still active in creating their artistic works and know the fact that other heirs or residence heirs are active in their operations. And as session 3, the transformation by residence. So this is about the ideal state of air in going forward and how to contribute to the society going forward. So I'd like to hand over microphone to Peter-san.
Thank you very much, Mami. And good afternoon to everyone, or maybe good morning, and maybe even good evening to some of you. My name is Theo Peters. I'm from the Dutch Embassy in Tokyo. And I'm heading the team that occupies itself with culture at the embassy. It's a wonderful team and we do a lot of things. And artists in residencies is something that is really important to us. We are the only ones here in this group that is not running an artist in residency ourselves, but we're using them a lot for Dutch artists, but not only for Dutch artists, also for non-Dutch artists who are living in the Netherlands or who have a link to the Netherlands. We worked with many of you, and we would love to expand that cooperation in the future as well. Because we really believe in ARRs, in airs. We really believe in that. We believe in the meeting of artists and architects and designers and craftsmen. We believe in the meeting of two cultures where if they meet, creativity is stimulated and new art is born. And while we're maybe all worried now in times of COVID, how to continue with that, let's also be sure and understand well that COVID will end. There will be a time when all of this is just a memory and then we'll continue. But until that time, let's see how we can make the best of it. Now, I was asked to introduce the closing session to you. And this closing session will be a dialogue between our moderator, Jun, and our observer, the Secretary General of Air Network Japan, Ms. Teiko Hinuma. As an expert in the field of air, I'm really interested to hear her observations. And their dialogue will be closed then off by remarks of Director Akira Tatahata, the Director of the Kyoto Art Center. So thank you very much, and please enjoy this symposium.
Thank you very much. I would like to also introduce Ms. Teiko Hinuma, the Secretary General from Air Network Japan. Can you hear Ms. Hinuma?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning. I'm Teiko Hinuma, Secretary General, Artist in Residency Network Japan. Hinuma Teiko と申します。
My name is Teiko Hinuma, General Secretary of Air Network Japan. Air Network Japan is in charge of networking of air in residence in Japan. In this symposium, so I'm here to help the promotional activities of artists or artists in residences in Japan. At present, both in Japan and abroad, we are living in a very harsh era. And I believe that all those concerned have worked very hard to continue their operations. And this symposium is a very valuable opportunity to share information and exchange information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hinuma. So hello again. I would like to tell you, I would like to inform that please check the chat window We will be sending you additional information about the panelists or organizations they represent in in their talks. Also, please feel free to write any questions anytime via the chat function in both language, English or Japanese. The organizers will make sure that I'm informed and question and comments. So please feel free to react. Also, please note the symposium we recorded and put online for archive purpose. Please mute your for the speakers. Please mute your mic when you finish your speech, and please don't forget to turn on when you start to talk. So these are general remarks. Let's proceed for our contents. So first, I would like to invite Ms. Benedict Ario, Cité International des Arts, the director, and then Ms. Benedict Ario, can you hear?
では、ベネディクト・アリオさん、シテ・アンテナショナル・デザール館長の方にお話をいただきたいと思います。お願いできますか？
Hello? Hello.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I didn't have the link. How are you? You look good.
Very good. I guess it's very early for you.
It is early, but it's fine. That's okay.
How is Paris now?
Cold.
Cold.
Like you. No, it's good. It's good. It's very bizarre. You know, there's a lot of there's going to be again there's the lockdown, and then there's going to be curfew and everything. How about Japan? How is it in Kyoto?
We have I can't compare because I can't go France, but we have maybe relatively better situation right now.
Okay.
But yes, it's many concern. The third wave of COVID will come back very soon since we are entering winter.
Mm.
Yes, so this symposium really is an important opportunity to discuss about our reality, like share our reality. And then I'm very curious what's happening in Paris and the Cité International. I guess a lot of things happened after the pandemic impact. So could you briefly talk about your institution in maybe about 5 minutes? Then we can all together we can discuss, and then about 30 minutes. Yeah, about 1 hour. Yes.
Okay.
So.
All right. So I when now?
You can, yes, you can start about briefly introduce the Cité International. I know it's very good residence program. I visit, it's amazed.
Well, we're looking forward to welcoming you one day. So Cité International des Arts is 55 years old. It's it was meant and conceived to host artists from all over the world. We do have actually a substantial number of partners in Japan that we welcome, universities, and we have academics and sometimes students coming over, but it's basically meant for artists, confirmed or emerging artists, and we've been welcoming. It's very big, so we've been welcoming approximately around 25,000 artists since the foundation of Cité, and we are in the center of Paris. We are right next to the river, and then we have another site which is in Montmartre, a very also historic place for artists, and we welcome them. All practices, all artistic practices, from visual arts to music to writers to curators and musicians, and and we have been basing we have based our project, a new project for CITE that we started in 2017. We based our project on the fact that one should make the best of that community, because we welcome, at the same time, we are able to welcome 325 artists. So it is a huge community. Based on the fact that they can come on the basis of a residency that is no shorter than 2 months, but which can can last up to 1 year or a year and a half. It's based on hospitality, basically, like all residency centers, and we've been also focusing on the fact that these artists should come on a project-based residency, so that within the span of their residency, they should be able to make the best of Paris, make the best of the community of artists around them, and but be able also to achieve their project. Our residency is manifold, but we do welcome also artists who come for research, and that's quite important for us. And we do encourage very much communication in between them and collaborations. So in that sense, the project is also focused on facilitating contacts within themselves, and also, of course, obviously, with our professional network in Paris and beyond. In that sense, we have also, in the last 2 years, developed collaborations with, obviously, other international residency centers, but also with residency centers in France itself, so that artists who would wish to do so could also go on a residency in Paris, but also benefit from other residencies elsewhere in France, so that they could be exposed to a vast majority, or to a good number of other artists, but also other professionals. So we have some collaborations with residency centers in the southwest of France, but also we're looking at now northern France, eastern France, etc. And these shared residencies are for us a priority today, and also in view of the pandemic. It is for us very important to be able to sustain exchanges. I think that a residency center, at the core of a residency center, what's important is also encounters, so that the artist can work in his or her studio, but at the same time can really benefit from being exposed to, or being engaging in conversations with other artistic practitioners. So that's, with my team, we're really much focusing on that. And we're also looking at developing more collaborations with international residencies, so that in what we hope will be a near future, we can resume also exchanges with European residencies, but also much, much beyond, so that French artists or foreign artists that we welcome can also, through us, discover other artistic and cultural scenes, and be exposed or experience other residencies. For us, at the core of an art residency, what's most important is experimentation. The experimenting one's practice, but experimenting new things, and therefore engaging in new conversations. We have developed also in that sense, in that perspective, we have developed a very strong network of partners in Paris and beyond, but in Paris, that also assist us when the artist comes to maybe help him or her in achieving his project or her project. That is to say that theaters, cinema productions, and so forth, concert halls, etc., concert experts, music experts, sorry, can also come and assist in giving special expertise that we internally at CITE do not necessarily have. So that comes as, these partners come as, they complement, they are an added value to the kind of assistance that we give to each and every artist that comes through CITE. One of the very important things I think that we have developed at CITE, because it's so huge, and being so huge is, as in welcoming 325 artists at the same time, is an advantage, but it is also a huge drawback, right? Because you can get lost in that maze of practices. Is the fact that we have developed programs, like cultural programs, in-house, and we have also, during the pandemic, we have developed certain kinds of communication that are digital or not digital, but that are also that make us or put us in a position that we are very close to the artists. So that, sorry, even in 2020, we made sure during our first lockdown in March, but also in the second lockdown now, that they can keep on working. We have never closed, for example. We've never closed CITE in 2020. We've always managed to remain open so that we could actually keep on being, keeping our first assignment, which is about hospitality, and which is about making sure that the artists who were actually stranded in Europe or stranded at CITE could stay there, because they were in no position to go back to their country. And we still have today artists actually that were supposed to go back to home in March and are still stuck in Paris because the borders with their country haven't opened. And so I've been also fundraising for them to get finances and stipends. For them to be able to sustain themselves in Paris. And but I think a residency, and most of all maybe in 2020 for is about a shared responsibility. And so we've been very, very keen to remain open and very careful, so as everyone at CITE could be able to pursue work, even though the context was very complicated. So in brief, we welcome all generations, all artists from all disciplines, and artists from all over the world, including France, all nationalities.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great presentation. Yes, that's, yeah, international exchange and experience-based, research-based, and yeah, the community is important, collaboration. These are really the core concept of a residence program, I guess. It's very important to feel by yourself, not the second-hand information, but you experience by yourself. And yeah, I would like to talk more things with you in the later half of this first session. So now I would like to go forward. Yes, I would like to introduce, yes. Yes, Klaus Jaimes, the director of Bangalore Residency, the Goethe-Institut, India. Hello, Mr. Klaus.
Yes,
can you
good
hear
morning.
me?
Hello
Good
from
morning.
Southern India.
Is it morning for you?
It is early morning for me, yes.
Good early morning. Hello. So, how have you been this COVID pandemic time?
Well, in southern India is a large country, right? And if you hear, oh, India has a very hard time living through the pandemic right now. Right now, it's actually northern India, which is sort of in a bad corona shape, so to say. In southern India, it is a phase of a little bit, at least nervously, the stress factor is going down, but you'll never know when the next wave is coming, right? So you're living and waiting and being careful.
Yes. And then how's it the residency program right now? Do you take a special measure like and Benedict told us like some artists couldn't go back because of border closures, or regularly do you have, how many artists do you have your institution? And could you explain a little bit about your institution as a residency program?
Yeah.
Yes.
So our program, the institution that I represent, is quite different from Benedict, because like we're way smaller, first thing, right? And the second thing is that I'm the director of the Goethe-Institut, which is a, so to say, normal Goethe-Institut where we offer language courses, language exams, where we have a library, and where we have all kinds of cultural events, concerts, readings, I don't know, what you name it. So one of our larger, but of course not only project, is the so-called Bangalore Residency. And that means that artists from Germany come to Bangalore, and we also have a part of the program where artists from India go to Germany. That implies already that we don't have facilities, we don't have apartments, we don't have studios for the artists, but we rather we funding the project, we are the founder of the project, and we coordinate the project. But the artists, they don't only apply with a concept note for an artistic project, but they also apply to go to some host in the city of Bangalore. That means that we have something like 30 host organizations in the city. That could be the, I don't know, experimental music department of an arts university. It could be a gallery. It could be an NGO. It could be a co-working space, which is also engaged in tech art. It could be a million things. We also have an NGO that is very busy with waste management, because this is a big problem in the city of Bangalore, as in most big Indian cities. So there's like 30 different host organizations, and the artists from Germany apply with their artistic concept note, and they apply to go to a certain host organization. That means that we don't only have the situation when it comes to apartments and studios, that we have to find individual solutions for every single artist. So we don't have a big house where they all live. We don't have a big house where they all work. We just have a common program. That means that like 12 artists from Germany per year are coming to Bangalore, and about 12 artists from India going to Germany at the same time usually. That means they are in sort of a group. It's possible that the group dynamic can come into existence and contribute to the success of the program, but actually they are working on their individual program with individual local partners. I think one thing that is less negative than in other situations or in other settings is now in Corona times, we don't have empty facilities of ourselves. We don't have a big house for 10, 20, 30, 40 artists, which is empty now because nobody can travel. That means that in times of Corona, we can shift our focus to different kinds of programming, because the Bangalore Residency program is part of our broader cultural programming. So there are no resources, so to say, getting wasted in empty spaces. And at the same time, we can do a lot of digital projects also with the same artists, with the same hosts, with the same cultural organizations in Bangalore, so that there is sort of a cultural program without programming without physical contact. This is of course only possible because our, so to say, our reason for existing as an institution is not 100% focused on artists in residency program. But like I said, in language courses, language exams, in the library, in providing information about Germany, and in a lot more cultural programs from all fields, music, literature, theater, dance, you name it. So right now we're, so to say, pausing. We're hibernating our Bangalore residency program. And we're waiting until traveling and living together and physical contact is possible again. And about the specific Corona situations, maybe later in the discussion. Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, I went to Bangalore 20 years ago. I remember the city. It was very nice. I don't know if the museum is open or gallery is open right now, but maybe we can discuss about this COVID impact, maybe later half of this session. Now, I would like to invite Miss Odai, Mami Odai, from Sapporo Tenjin-Yama Art Studio, director of Sapporo Tenjin-Yama Art Studio. Miss Odai was joining last night also in the opening session, but today she will talk probably from a more local case, like from Sapporo Tenjin-Yama depots. Miss Odai, can you hear?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Odai. I'm here again. I'm going to talk about Tenjin-Yama Studio in Sapporo, Hokkaido. This is the 7th year of art in residence. The location is in the northern tip of Hokkaido, in the northern state. We are in the capital of Hokkaido in Sapporo. Hokkaido itself is so-called, has a culture that's distinctive from Japan. It's a little bit different. We have a different history and different culture. And in that sense, it's a very interesting area. So maybe that's why our artist in residence is doing well. This is we have a good point to have artists in residence. I am actually myself involved in a project and I feel it every day. Let me share my slides with you. I hope I can handle this. This is Tenjin-Yama, and I made this slide in order to share with you about Tenjin-Yama. This is a classical painting. It was drawn by a Dutch artist called The Hunters in the Snow. The title. Tenjin-Yama Art Studio started artist in residence when we tried to have an architecture. I was involved from the original architecture, and we used the hotel building that was empty in Sapporo, and we wanted to change it into artist in residence program. And we have, as I told you, we have a distinctive history in Hokkaido, and we were able to use that area in Sapporo. And I wanted the artists to become like hunters and explore our area. And also Tenjin-Yama Studio is placed in a kind of a higher uphill in Sapporo. So this is the image I posted originally. You can see the view of snow. It was also in the winter time when we started the program. So this was the hope that I had, that my idea, I wanted my air to be like this. And as I said, this is the originally a hotel building. So I had to think about the history of that building as a hotel. There are 3 ways to utilize our residency. First, we are able to use some funding, government funding or city funding from Sapporo, and we are using air program, having air program. And second, way is the artists pay their own fee and they are allowed to stay with us. And the third one, we have exhibitions, music concerts, music events, and theater in Sapporo. And there are people who are invited to take part in these projects. And those people are welcome to stay at our place. So we have a Tenjiyama Art Studio for these three purposes. And the first characteristic project is the project where people come on their own. We don't have any timing or the duration of stay that's already decided. So it's up to artists to decide how long they want to stay and when they want to come. So we are going to promote that kind of use, and we receive about 400 artists a year. And originally, our facility was a hotel. So in order for artists to start working from our place, we decided not to have a special studio or craft houses. All we have is a bed, kitchen, and a bathroom and bathtub. And these are the minimal requirements we have in order to live. That's what we have in our facility. So what we did next is, in order to coordinate and support using human manpower. So I think this picture also depicts that aspect in Bruegel's picture. So artists have Hokkaido as their field, and they start their field work, and they coordinate their own work. So if they need a studio, then we look for a place with the art studio where they can use, or if they need the crafting area, we look for the area and try to link up those people. That originates from my experience I had in Holland. I stayed there for a year and a half, and I was in a team that was operating the portal things, and I got a lot of ideas from trans artists, that portal site. Those artists was in the middle of two people, and they tried to connect two distinctive things. And I thought that the trans artist, that aspect, is the business point of what I wanted to have. And this year, we had various things that happened. Although this is the 7th year of our era, however, and we started to getting a lot of researchers who are based in Japan, and we are getting more and more researchers, and people have a few years to prepare their project, and they present it. So all sorts of long-term projects emerged in our residences. And from my point of view, I found it really pleasing to have that kind of projects. And we were hit by the pandemics. And when we originally made our residence system, the timing-wise, it was after the Great Eastern Japan earthquake. Maybe you remember our natural disaster that happened in 2011. And that created, of course, a lot of impact in Japan and changed a lot of things in Japan. And right after that, we started our air. So itself, when we had to think about energy issues, and we had to think about something different from how we used to live, and that was our starting point, and that's what we wanted our air to be. So we thought thoroughly about how we use our facility, how we manage our facility, and we wanted to try something new that nobody has done before. And after before the pandemic, in Japan, we had a program of air, and we were thinking of changing the system of air within Japan. Of course, residency involves movement, mobility, temporary staying in certain places. And in Japan, we wanted to, they were putting emphasis on what we do in temporary stay. You know, our world has changed into a place where you can go from one place to another easily by using a plane. So we wanted to have a different direction from there. So the title of the program is it is rather difficult to reach places. That's what we were thinking of. And then a pandemic hit, and this was has actually become true and a timely topic. And we have online residence with overseas artists. And within Japan, we have, of course, offline discussions and physical movement locally. So we have two different things combined in Sapporo Tenjin-yama residence, online and offline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Odai. It's very, yeah, there's many different type of residence programs in the world. I think Sapporo Tenjin-yama is very unique, like one part is invited by organization, other part artists apply by all with their own funding, and also use for different exhibition or events. That's very, so I think there's more than 1,500 or 2,000, so many artist residence programs in the world. But now I would like to go forward. I would like to present also very unique style residence program, recently more spotlighted micro residence program network. I would like to invite Miss Izumi Sakamoto, the director of ARE, ARE. Miss Sakamoto, can you hear me? Hello.
Konnichiwa. Hello. Thank you for your introduction. My name is Sakamoto. Do you know, have you heard about the Yamanashi prefecture in Japan? So let me explain the location. So it is about 100 kilometers to the west from Shinjuku, Tokyo, and Yamanashi is located close to Mount Fuji. And we picked up the first alphabet of air artist in residence Yamanashi, or ALE. This is the 15th year of our residences. So we planned the 15th anniversary. However, we have to scale down our commemorative events due to pandemic. So this is private residence. So the artists are self-funded. So shall I show my residence? Can you see my screen? Thank you for waiting. So this is a 50-year-old building. It used to be a hospital or clinic. About 20 years ago, the hospital or clinic closed its operation. And we established the concept from hospital to hospitality. So this is a background of our residence. Hospitality is we like to welcome people from other areas far away, and we have to be generous and we have to understand each other. So generosity and hospitality are our policy. So this is private residence, so we have difficulty in financing, but we have received the subsidies from Yamanashi Mecenas every year. I am the director of the residence, and we have supervisor, student intern, interpreter, a designer. And furthermore, many citizen supporters have supported us. Thanks to their support, the artists can continue their creative activities. Sustainable place. I'd like to move to next slide. I'd like to go to the next slide, so please wait. So big challenge is to how to make our residence sustainable. So this is why we have conducted a work study group for calligraphy or open our spaces to the public. About funding is one of the big issues for us. For 15 years, we have collected artworks of artists or artwork of local, and we planned an auction for funding. Through the auction, so I think that there are two advantages for auction. So one is the funding, and one is that the artist's artwork can be enjoyed by many people. And furthermore, through the collaboration of local people, so we brought a canvas in front of shops, and we hold it open air type exhibition on the street, where local people or many people are passing by. And by looking at this kind of canvas, or people are allowed to draw everything on the canvas. And like this, we compiled this artwork into the document and published it. And furthermore, there is a Japanese language school nearby where international students study, and some of the students are artists. So we invited them to have a live talk session with local people. We will have this event next week.
Thank you very much. This is really good to hear the local activity and very interesting. I heard, yeah, you had a lot of difficulty after the border closures, but maybe now I would like to introduce another panelist, the last panelist, Miriam Wistolaihi, Creative Director of Hotel Maria Kapel. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear, Miriam?
I can hear you very well. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Yes, good morning, can I say?
You can say that.
Already good morning. Yes, could you explain about your institution And maybe after that, we will have a kind of 60 minutes or less this group discussion. Let's talk many the fact that we are facing on. But first, please introduce your institution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also prepared a couple of slides, so I'm just going to share my screen with everyone. I think you can see it now. Yes, so my name is Miriam Wistreich. I run a residency called Hotel Maria Kapel in a town called Hoorn, which is about 30 minutes by train outside of Amsterdam. It's a sort of mid-size, well, for this country, it's 70,000 inhabitants, so a smaller town with a lot of commuters. And we're a single artist residency, so we host one artist at a time. And we are housed in this 16th century chapel that used to be a monastery many, many hundred years ago. So it's quite a specific place, and artists come to us often to make exhibitions, but we also really want to provide space for other kinds of research and work. It's been a bit of a specific year for us. We've been running in our current form for about 15 years. And after 15 years of running in as a small, we're a very small art space. We have 2 part-time employees who take care of the whole artist in residence. And we also have this big space and a cinema. And we are funded as an exhibition space by the Mondrian funds, the local Dutch art funds, and our local municipality. So we also have a specific, we specifically have to or are obliged to also show the process of our artist in residence to the public. And this is in some ways fantastic because it means we have a very direct contact to our local community. And in other ways, it's difficult because especially as we also really experience many challenges with funding, and we have a huge space. So you also need more funding to fill a space like this. And of course, in times of COVID, when you have to close your institution, it becomes difficult. But we've been in a very specific year, as I said, a year of reflection and reorientation where we've tried to take a step back and self-examine. We've tried to think about how we run and how we could run differently, why we run the way we do. And I'd like to show a picture, and this is from a performance by an American artist called Mirle Laderman Eucalis. I think it's from around 1969. Maybe some of you know her. She is a performance artist who at this moment around 1968 made a manifesto for maintenance art in which she said, she was, the anecdote is she was in art school, she was pregnant, and her older male professor said, well, you might as well pack up all your whole career now that you're going to be a mother. It's never going to work anyway. And her reply to this was, from now on, I will do all my daily activities, all my maintenance, but I will make them my art. And so she started making these cleaning performances, for example. So when she was asked to do a project at a museum, she would start cleaning the museum and make transparent all the hidden labor that we're usually not shown. I think this is this kind of goes very well for residencies as well. When you think about this reproductive labor, all the work we do in order to just keep on living, that's a very big part, I think, of running a residency. There's a lot of hosting, making sure the artist feels well and is able to do their work well, and making sure everything runs invisibly and neatly in the background. We've been engaging in a year of care. So we've been very interested in care, how we care for each other, how we care for our community, how we care for our space, and how we care for each other over time. And I know I'm running close to my 5-minute mark, so I can talk more about this, but we've been later, but we've in this very specific year, we've invited artists to think with us about how we can become a better institution. So this is a little different than just inviting artists to work and make projects, because we've really wanted to be in dialogue about how to really be a better artist in residence. And I'll finish with one slide. This is a quote by an American curator who works at Kyoto Art Center in Utrecht here in the Netherlands. And they say about care, I think we can start being clear by what we mean when we say care. I think we would be better off by figuring out what caring practices are and enacting them. If we would like to make art institutions a refuge, then those institutional practices must ensure that it's possible. Like the title of this symposium, this is taken from a symposium we held called Solid Care, make these practices solid so they stop slipping out from under us from being individual. And if I can quickly sort of wrap that up, I think what we've really seen also with COVID is really a crisis of care. All of the sudden, all of the things we rely on to keep society running, like airfare, trains, going on trains, traveling, going to the shops, relying on people to take care of our children so we can work, all of those things became very apparent by not being there anymore. So for us, this issue of care has really shaped our way of looking at both how we make a program, how we host artists, and how we move through the pandemic.
Yes, thank you very much, Miriam. We got some question, very interesting question. How to connect the people who are normally behind the stage and they are at service for the artist, How do they cooperate with the artist concerning this COVID-19 issue? I think, could you everybody turn on the video? Maybe it's better to discuss all together. We already know each other. Hello again, hello again, hello again. That's good to see you again. Konnichiwa, good morning, hello. Yes, yes. So we have a question, how to connect the people who are normally behind the stage of the at the service of the artists. How do they cooperate with the artists concerning this COVID-19 issue? Hello, can you hear?
I can start by offering an answer.
Sure.
I can only talk from my from my specific residency, but I think for us, we've been in the fortunate situation that it doesn't look like we will lose any funding because of COVID. So we've been able. So I think what we've been able to give the artists is a very high degree of flexibility. And it's really the only thing I think we can offer right now, that we can sort of say, everyone is going through a really hard time right now. It's very hard to work. So we understand that you might need more time, less time, no time, specific ways of staying here if you can even come. So a sort of, a high degree of flexibility.
Any other comments or answers? Some hints? I think I would like to ask you actually more like a general question. You have a really different situation, different type of residence program. One is really like a City International 300 studios, or like some is only one, like a Miriam run. And then also the ARE is like the more like a micro residence network. But in general, what do you think? We recently started to talk about online residence program. That's I don't know. It's lexically, it's like the vocabulary is really paradox, like online and the residence, it's like kills each other. But do you have any comments, or what do you think about? Yesterday, like we pick up a few vocabulary, like few words, like the hypotenuse was saying like yes, one effect from COVID-19 was digitalize, like move on more digital way. And another one is more flexibility of mobility, like a green mobility idea. Yes. Yes, please. Klaus?
Okay, so the question was, what about virtual residencies, right? To be provocative, it would be like reading without a book or playing music, going to a concert without music. So I think at the bottom of the heart of a residency program is the personal, which also means physical exchange. It is not only about you and me and the other four talking here. That's one form of how you can do programming, and that makes sense, absolutely. But it's different. Yeah, if you do a residency, you have to be physically present, because it's not only about me talking to the 5 of you and to 80 people in the audience here online. It is also to go through to walk about in the city. It is to realize what the sounds and the smells are. It is to realize how hard it is in Bangalore to go from point A to point B. It is how to communicate with people who don't speak your language. It is about how do you deal with money? Does a coconut cost €1 or does it cost 1 cent, 1 euro cent? It is about so many experiences that you cannot substitute, I think, through an online thing. You can do a lot of things online, but that's a different thing. It is not a residency in my eyes. I mean, we have to improvise in these times. Nobody really planned ahead. What do I do as a cultural institution of whatever kind? If there comes a pandemic, we cannot really meet. Nobody planned that. So we all have to improvise. And I think it's legitimate to do something like, oh, we should try to give them a chance to meet, even if they cannot meet physically, because we planned for that person to come to Bangalore. So that person cannot come to Bangalore. So let's interconnect them virtually. Of course, it's good. It's better than nothing. But a residency program is about meeting and experiencing new things with your full body.
Yeah. And how about in Bangalore? Is museums are museums open, or the galleries, museums, concert hall, theater, these kind of art facilities?
Well, most of life in Bangalore is, so to say, normal, except for education, schools, universities, and culture, which means museums and galleries and concert halls and auditoriums. That is more or less all virtual. I think professional galleries, like galleries who sell art, they're just open like any other store. But museums and people, like institutions which are more or less non-profit, they're all closed.
Yes, please. Liam?
Thanks, Klaus. I don't agree, actually. I think so. I'll daringly disagree here. I understand, of course, that a huge part of a residency is going out of your normal context and engaging in a cultural encounter and all of the things you describe here. I also think that the core of a residency is providing time and, in the best scenario, also space for artists to make work. It's to give them a certain sort of bubble, a time in a bubble that can provoke new thoughts or provoke new experiences or work and allow them to think differently. And I don't really see a problem why that couldn't happen online. Of course, we're all sick of sitting at our kitchen tables and doing everything. But if we think about residency as a sort of question of residing and of producing situations for thinking and engaging, then I think that can happen online as well. It, of course, requires very, very different things from all of us. It requires different ways of communicating, different ways of thinking about what work is and what space is and what engagement is, and rethinking probably all of our protocols, and that's hard work. And I understand that this can't be the case for all residencies because residencies have different goals at heart as well. But to me, it seems that a virtual residency could provide very different ways of engaging.
Yes, we have a comment from a webinar. We all have bodies indeed. So yet we seem not know whether the virtual has enriched the improved our communication and body bounds. So you could catch it. Yeah. Do you think it? Yes, please. Benedict.
Wait, there we go. I don't know. We've been, it's not with just the pandemic, but it seems that in 2020, we managed to get a lot of questions, you know, out of the blue. And that was one of them was the question of a virtual residency with artists from the Middle East. And we're still struggling with that, I must say. And it's something that, and probably we as the team, right? We were thinking about the fact that we were not yet ready to see how to organize or structure a virtual residency, a digital one, simply because probably we come, the context of CITE makes it for us very difficult to actually think otherwise than within, you know, a community of artists and a community of artists that is set in an architecture, in buildings that are actually super well found, so to say, super well adjusted to the pandemic, because each and every artist has his or her individual studio with kitchen and bathroom separate from each other, etc. And so that made, so to speak, things easier for them and for us to be close to them. And so that it's as if a virtual residency for us was very abstract, or was something that we're looking at, but in terms of something different. I do feel that a residency actually provides an experience because of a given context. And the context can be, well, in Paris, the city of Paris, can be the professional, you know, background, the space for work, and also, yeah, the fact that you're going to be able to meet, collide with, confront, address issues, and so you can do that in Visio. But then for me, it's still I'm still struggling with that, and it's still for me a Visio, you know, like today. And I'm still struggling with the fact that it's you know, all the university classes are happening through Skype and everything, fine. But it's then how will I organize a suitable residency? I don't know. And it's something that we have started addressing to the 260 artists that are still with us today. We've actually been communicating with them and meeting them individually because of the pandemic. We cannot do any group meetings, but actually to address that, because at some point you said, well, maybe we should actually ask the artists if maybe they could help us and assist us in trying to think how we could work out a virtual digital residency.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. And we have another comment from the audience at the artist in residence program. There are valuable experiences such as conversation with artists and the regional research, but how these were lost by the COVID-19 or change the shape. Is there some artists, for example, who changed the projects because of this the COVID like redesign the project? Or yes, Benedict, please.
I think Miriam, you were first.
Oh, pardon.
Okay, all right. Yes, I think it's been it's been and still is quite a ride. Sorry to say this like that, but it's that's the only word that comes right now. And so in France, the first lockdown, we had 125 artists still staying, and then what we realized was like how a lot of them actually started working differently, just simply because the lockdown was there, we were confined, and they were cut off from their usual professional network and habits and everything. And so it came as a radical moment where they had to transform, and some of them managed to transform actually quite radically. They also transformed their projects, also to some of them to convert it digitally, so that they could still, communicate their research and everything. And for the second lockdown now, it's we have more artists, but it's interesting how you don't adjust to what's happening, because I think we're still grappling also with the wording of what's happening, with the wording of that experience. And but it seems that the artists have less difficulty in adjusting to the context, also because the lockdown is less harsh in France, as in you can still meet person to person professionals and so on, but it's there's been less projects that have been transformed this time than in March.
Maybe I think we can talk freely, because you don't need to hands up. Maybe we can mix, like you can cut also, like let's do like conversation. I think it's better. We need more information, or like we can freely talk. Then like a chatting. Like this is more like a residence program. We are on the same table, and we share the own point of view. Do you have like an example, like for example, someone changed hi, Izumi-san, please. We can comment.
This is me. Because of COVID-19, there are also bad things, but there is one thing I'd like to say about ARI. That is, in March, we had 4 artists who were stuck in our residency. Those are stranded artists. And after that, an American artist managed to go out. However, there are 3 artists remaining. They are from the South America. They live in a share house near Erie. They moved out of Erie and now live in a share house. Or some of them live in a local company. There's a company, industry in the city who are helping out with visa issues, or those people have portraits drawing and they get some funding. So because those people are stranded in Erie, we were able to get community help and collaborative help. And those artists, usually stay for a couple of months. Although they want to have more stable relationship, they had to leave before they establish such a friendship. But this time they are here for 8 months, those 3 people. And it's not only Erie, there's grassroots help in the city, and they help out and they give us their hands, and that was a really precious profit we've got at Erie. In order to have air residence in a local city in Japan, we have, of course, lots of hardships. It's very hard to get help from a community just using art. There are some difficulties in that issue in Japan, but now they see those artists, how they live, or we ask them to have workshops, but this time thanks to COVID, we were able to get interest from everyone. You know, we live in a really small area, small city, and agricultural people give us fresh vegetables, and we help out. And although those artists are stranded, they are getting warm friendship and help, and they are able to continue with their artwork. And that was something I didn't really imagine beforehand. And that was something I thought, oh, I am so glad I was doing air. And for the last 15 years, AIRI had, of course, local activities, and that was really helpful to get support from the community people, and I'm very proud of that. As a result, we were able to diminish the distance between local people and art. That's what I wanted to share from AIRI.
You were like saying something, please. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna answer the question of what, how did we change projects when COVID started? So we did a couple of things. We had an artist in residence who was from Rotterdam, another country in the city in the Netherlands, and she had to leave and go home. You know, in the beginning, I think we were also scared also, and it was also strange and new. And we closed down, we closed our institution, and we moved our entire program online. And we did specifically two things. The artist, this was in the chapter, I mentioned that we had these chapters, and this was in the chapter called Work. And the artist was supposed to make an exhibition, but instead decided to engage with us about the ways in which we work together as a team. So for us, it actually gave us time to take a step back and reflect on how we work together internally, and also how we work with the artist in residence. So we asked the team, she and I worked together, the artist and I, Catherine McBride is her name. We asked the team to start keeping a work diary. So we asked everyone to have a diary, and a diary, of course, is quite a personal sort of a personal document. And but it was a work diary, but we also said, please, if you have like emotions and feelings about your work, put them in that diary. So everyone had a diary, and every Friday we would meet on Zoom, and this was in the days when Zoom was a new thing. We would meet on Zoom and we would read each other's diaries, and we would meet on Zoom and discuss what we had noticed in each other's diaries. And of course, very quickly, things became clear that everyone was experiencing a high amount of stress, that we were all losing, we all have three different jobs, 2 or 3 or more different jobs. We're all freelancers. So we were all losing our jobs. We were stuck at home. People had partners who were sick, or family members who were in isolation. And of course, that was tough for working conditions. And in the end, Catherine and I wrote a text about this experience that we published online. Also, yeah, quite a sort of abstract thought of this process. So that was one thing we did. It was really great for our team. I don't think this is great for all teams, but for our specific team, it really allowed us to get sort of closer and have a more holistic understanding of what it means to work together and what it means to host. So that's one thing we did. And I'm going to give one more example, because we also, sort of following a lot of the thoughts that came out from this, we started a kind of online, specifically on Instagram. This really came from our communications person, who was very not interested in, but very moved by the thought of the fact of a deterioration in mental health among artists, because of course artists very often, and cultural workers also, are super precarious. They rely really heavily on different income sources. They might have projects that were canceled. Maybe they work next to their artistic practice in a coffee place, and the coffee place is closed. So how do you pay rent? Or maybe your mom is far away and you can't go see her. All of these very pressing issues became very clear. So we started a sort of a very like on the run kind of mental health archive for artists, where we shared links and gathered stories about how to help each other stay sane.
Yeah. Interesting. Yes, please, Benedict.
Yes, I think it's important to raise the question of precarity, and it's because it's gone really bad. This year there was an acceleration of that regarding artists. I just wanted to mention that yes, it's we've been struggling with the fact that what Miriam was saying about the mental extremes that some of the artists went through is something that we've been actually asking for medical assistance in some kind of medical counseling, so that we could actually, because we don't know at CITE, we're not professionals in that, so we've been also we've been benefiting from medical counseling, and it's been very precious. But regarding the precarity, it's not just because we're a private foundation, and so we need also residents, because they actually, residents or their partners, the sponsors, they actually fund the institution I'm running, and so it's not just because of that, but there was a huge panic in March about the fact that there was an acceleration in financial precarity, and then a more general precarity targeting artists. And so there's been a lot of fundraising around that. I spent most of my time during the first lockdown fundraising for artists, so that we could actually distribute stipends for those who were stuck in France and stayed at CITE, but also for others, just simply others, French artists who are at CITE and who were not going to make it. So that was part of and it's been actually now an ongoing activity, trying to actually dedicate some time specifically for that. But there was also a kind of another emergency, which was, how do you provide for artists the possibility to come for a residency after lockdown or during lockdown, and how do you finance programs that can actually assist some artists, and some artists that are otherwise have no financial assistance. And here I'm really thinking about, there are some French artists, but we welcome French artists and international artists, but international artists based in France would not benefit from the same assistance and the assistance that the public authorities also put into place for artists. And there has been a substantial amount of them. I think one has also to say that the public authorities have been trying to assist in one way or another, even if it's on a small scale, but they've been trying to assist or address that problem. But then for foreign artists stranded in France or living in France, there's no really any format for financial assistance. And so what we did was, because we had to suspend and cancel all the programs, international programs going to CITE, we actually set up new programs for curators, new programs for artists, and with finances from public authorities, but also private foundations that actually could welcome at CITE for 6 months, 3 months, international artists living in France. And therefore we would come as, for a small number, unfortunately, but we would come as a provider for them, for a space to work, but also a space to live in times where it is extremely difficult to pay one's rent, etc., etc. And so these programs, and now we're multiplying programs like that, and we had anticipated, unfortunately, that we would not resume our programs early 2021, and so we are trying to, develop more programs like that so that we make sure that in whatever way we can still be hospitable and international. And there is a huge number, of course, of international artists wherever we are. Madame Sakamoto was mentioning that also during the first lockdown in Japan. They were stranded artists, and I think it's important that we should be flexible. We should be able to very quickly try and think about substituting to what used to be, well, for us, international programs, and it's been quite violent also for some of our artists to not being able to actually all of a sudden sustain themselves in the way that they used to.
Yes. Yeah, that's a financial thing. I want to ask again to Ms. Sakamoto, for example, are the private area, because most of the big institution has the kind of foundation budget, foundation support, like but the private residence program, how the virtual, like a virtual residency program, when most of private residencies, the physical is based on the physical community interaction, interaction, it can be stable, sustainable, like a private residence system.
はい。これまでは、
Yes.
実際
Up to now, yes, artists came and they did their art, and we looked for, we were able to produce funding. That we've had a long history. So for virtual residency, we have lots of agenda ahead of us we have to think of. However, and also, we have to think that physical residency is very important, but online is also something we have to keep, and we have to find a good balance between the two.
Yeah, many, like for example, Odai-san said like Japanese artists come to stay in Sapporo, like even like domestic artists can use the studios. How?
パンデミックになってからは、
During pandemic, Sapporo Tenjin-yama Art Studio hasn't received international artists, but Japanese artists living in Japan or foreign artists living in Japan, they visited us and stayed our facility to continue their work. This year, online residencies have been just started at our AIR. Like Moller. So we don't receive artists here, but I wonder whether we can continue research-based residency without physical presence of artists, or we shouldn't do that, I think. However, we tried. This is what we started, really started research-based residency. After that, I noticed, yes, we could do that. This is because, like this symposium, so communications, when communication is conducted over internet, we have to speak out. Otherwise, we cannot communicate with each other. So once we get used to digital communication where we have to speak, communication between artists can proceed. And regardless of the fact whether artist is there or is not here, so we can propose. Also, artists may want to have this kind of support or this kind of tool without any physical presence. So with such idea, I think that we can continue online-based residency once we get to know what kind of support they need.
Yeah, most of your residence program studio invite international artists, and there's option that you invite more local artists. But how about Klaus? Because your institution is bilateral, the nation like India and Germany. Like for example, now Japan opened the border for Vietnam, Korea, Singapore, but when I think, for example, if the international residence program starts inviting from these countries, that sounds a bit weird because yeah, it's not international. It's more like a nation purpose. Like you have like a contracted nation, and So, but so the national idea and the idea of international is probably slightly different. Sorry, the Klaus, how is the situation between India and or do you have any thoughts?
Well, right now, like I said, our residency program is sort of hibernating because we don't have a physical space that we really need to use to that we have to pay for in anything. So we engage in different programs which are not connected to physical contact, or very little at least. It doesn't make sense to bring anybody from Germany to Bangalore now, and also the other way around. It doesn't make sense because either there are strict regulations, either there are very few flights, or maybe in 5 days there will be very tight regulations. And so we cannot really plan ahead. There's also the question of visa. Right now, Indians barely get visa for Germany. It's really hard to get a visa because the consulates are just more or less closed because they also want to protect their colleagues, not to be exposed to too many people floating in and out of a consulate just to get an interview for a visa. So basically for us, it's not really the biggest, comparably, our problems are less than those of institutions which have really big, large physical facilities to host people physically. So let me be provocative again, and I hope that everybody else will disagree very actively. If you have a physical house to meet physically, to invite people, and physical contact is not possible, then you're in a dilemma. And I think we only have 3 possibilities. Either you wait, or you get rid of the house, or you make other purpose of the house. This is really a dilemma, and I understand that there are so many resources bound to that physical space, which physically cannot be used right now. So I can only hope that physical contact will be possible soon again, because otherwise, I think if this is in a medium range of time or even in a long term not possible, I think these institutions really have to think about how to shift their focus. Because again, like so many also financial resources are bound to physical spaces, and it's really, I don't want to be in your space, I have to. Yeah, it's really a tough time, I understand that. So I'm done with my provocation.
Interesting. Yes, that's really true. Your question, your comment is really, yeah, giving us a lot of thoughts. Do you have any comments? Anybody? Yeah, Sakamoto-san, please.
I received a question, so I'd like to answer that. As of the end of March, we had 4 artists, and all of them were stranded at that time. And So larger share house was built nearby. At the time, the house was empty. So this is why I consulted the owner of the house, and the owner accepted them. So the share house was a safer place for them compared with Ellie. Otherwise, they would stay at Ellie even after March. The share house is bigger and safer in that point.
Provocative comment from Klaus was really interesting, and then it applies for budget. So also, I think like some the institution already fixed the annual budget, and if you don't spend all, you can't get the next year, for example. But this system naturally forced artists to create something. But this is also another discussion. But today, like, we have too much stuff. We don't need to make a concrete something, plastic something. We don't need to think.
I'm sorry, it doesn't really work out with the
Yeah, I
tone.
can't hear you either.
I think it usually, like, we don't hear the moderator, but we hear some kind of Japanese translation very much in the background.
Can you hear now? See you soon, whenever you get dressed, there's a bit
No, we don't hear you.
when you get up. No? Oh, Sean's all right. Hello, can you hear? No? Hey ho, who wants to walk then? But my go to walk. That's interesting. Because the nuclear particle, you know, like 小田井さん、なんかつけてみて喋れますか？マイクプロブレムになってるみたいで。
小田井です。聞こえています
So this is Orai. Can you hear me?
Hello everyone.
Hello.
小田井さん、何か喋っていた
Odai-san, so did you continue to speak?
そうですね。
Well,
天神山アートスタジオっていうのはやはり
Tenjin-Yama Art Studio
ありますので、
is we have a facility, physical facility.
人はまあそのハードを十分に使っていこう、
So
受け入れようというふうに
Mr. Kraus
おっしゃ
said
っていたんですけれど、
air which has facility has to receive or accept artists. I agree with you. We have to make full use of our facility, physical facility, for artists as well. Even if artists cannot move physically, we would like to manage to make full use of our facility. So far, our art studio have those who requires far mobility. But after COVID-19, we have accepted those living in closer. In other words, we are inviting local artists living in Sapporo City, where I live, or Hokkaido, so that our facility can be physically used. And as for online communications, so we have started online communications, and so far, I think there are more advantages or good points. For example, we have invited a few number of artists, 2 or 3 artists. But when it comes to digital residencies, although we can accept a limited number of artists with scholarship, however, at least we have more chances to communicate with more artists over internet. Furthermore, by building digital online platform, artists who don't stay our artists can communicate with each other. So the scope of imagination has been widened. So As for research-based work, the accurate research is needed. In that sense, digital doesn't work. However, there is more space or room for imagination over digital. So that may enhance the interest for research. So the result or outcome of research-based residencies might be different from the past one. I wonder whether the microphone is okay or not.
I can't hear you.
I think our moderator left.
I know he's here.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear?
You're not very loud, but we can hear you.
Yeah, very low.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, good. Yes. Hello again.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear? No, very small. Sorry, we have a technical problem.
Okay, I can try to make a comment on the funding issue. I didn't completely hear the question, but I think I know roughly what we're being asked about spending assigned budget before the end of the year.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So when COVID started, I think for us and probably for lots of other institutions, there's been a lot of insecurity also of whether this financial year is the same as all other financial years, meaning will we be asked to provide the same results and provide the same things. For us, we've kind of decided to go on a little bit to the extent that we could with business as usual. And we're in the very fortunate position that even though we're all freelancers in our team, we've continued being paid. And we've actually also insisted on still trying to pay our artists, even though the projects might fall through. And it's again in line with this issue of precarity, that we know that the loss of income is a hugely stressful thing for artists. Many artists already live in very precarious circumstances. And for me, it's also, I think we've discussed this a little bit, for me, it's also a way of addressing, if I go back for a moment to this issue of, or this sort of a point of being transparent and addressing the things that we don't normally see. One of the things, of course, that I find is something we should be talking about is the question of class in the art world, that the art world is not a very accessible place, and it's even less accessible if you don't have personal wealth, parents, a partner, some kind of entry that allows you to work for free, like a lot of artists do all the time, or a lot of the time. So this is also a little bit coming back to Klaus's first provocation about not being able to do online residencies, that it's a physical thing. When I say that residencies are also about providing space, I think I think about that also as a financial question, that by paying someone, you can also allow them space at home, at their kitchen table, or in the garden, mental space and creative space, at least not to worry. Yeah. So for us, we've really tried to think about money as a solidarity issue.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So we are almost finishing this session, but what Klaus said, it's very nice. Like you have a big house and you have empty now, and then maybe money is inside of the house. What are you gonna do? You have to spend all the money, but you have to also use the house. You have a budget to make something, but yeah, that's a situation that we are facing on, I think. Yes. So we are almost last moment. If you anybody has a comment or opinion or something you want to say at the end, could you please, Benedict, please?
I just want to, I'm not sure I understood some of the questions, because the final one that you raised, June, because you mentioned the fact that sometimes we need to spend, you know, the financial year comes to an end and you need to spend it, and to spend, you know, but you also need to be able to, well, that was our challenge this year. We're a private foundation. We had, out of our 150 programs, 100 of them got canceled. And so my question and my responsibility was to make sure that CITE would actually live on in 2021, so that I could still, and we could still welcome artists in 2021, because actually it jeopardized the house. And about the physical house, all the gallery spaces and the rehearsal spaces that are now empty, we transformed them and gave them away as working space for artists. But I think far away, regarding the financial challenge, I suggest we meet in 1 year and see where we all are. And I take this opportunity to thank you all. It was great.
Thank you very much. That's a great comment. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for today. This was a great session. We could hear a lot of different reports from different places. Yeah, and then yeah, the question become more clear, and then I hope we will continue keep in touch, like exchange the opportunity, like opinion and a voice from local. Yeah. So I'd like to. So for audience, we will have 30 minutes break, and we will come back. Yes. Yeah. We'll come back in 30 minutes later. Thank you very much for all participants, and thank you very much for all audience. See you in a little bit later. Thank you so much. Bye.